Good evening. I'm Chad McDonald, Cultural Arts Superintendent for the City of Cookeville. Welcome to my office here at the Performing Arts Center. Tonight's episode of Conversations from Backstage with Matt Wilson features Rick Woods and Kathleen Gilpatrick. We hope you enjoyed their conversation about theater in this community and what they have done to contribute to its success. Hope you enjoy the show.
Welcome to Conversations from Backstage. So we have joining us tonight Rick Woods and Kathleen Gilpatrick. We are going to talk to them a little bit about the history of the Backstage. To get things started off, why don't you guys tell us a little bit about your history here and what you've done. Rick, why don't you go ahead and start with that?
Okay. First of all, thanks, Matt, for inviting me to participate and Kathy to participate and give a little bit of history of the Backstage Series and for doing this series for the Department of Leisure Services and for content during this time of isolation. And
yes.
This has been awesome. It's been fun to watch for me, and it's great that you guys are taking the initiative to do this. So I really appreciate the work that you've done to make this happen.
Oh, thank you.
So my history, I guess coming here to Cookeville, I came here to work at, then it was called the Cookeville Drama Center.
Right.
So I came here in December of 1985.
Okay.
And I was the only employee for quite some time. I shouldn't say quite some time. I was the only employee for a little while here. It was run by a nonprofit organization, still owned by the city, but a nonprofit board that operated the facility. And it was not it was a rental house, basically.
Gotcha.
We rented the facility to other organizations to produce their activities here. We didn't produce a lot of content here. We'd do an occasional concert or maybe a book-in show or something, but that we sponsored. But mostly it was used by Cookeville Children's Theater, Cookeville Summer Theater, Dance Arts Center, an awesome organization that was the only dance studio here in that day. And they were terrific. WCTE auction, the Kiwanis auction, and those kinds of events happened here. And that we'll talk a little bit more about how that led into the Drama Center Backstage Series. But so I've been here since 1985. I was here in this building until 2000.
Okay.
And then I became Director of Leisure Services and Public Facilities after this facility came under the umbrella of the Department of Leisure Services and Public Facilities in 1987.
Okay.
It kind of expanded our responsibilities and gave us some new opportunities. And so I was Cultural Arts Superintendent, the position Chad now holds.
Right.
I did that for a few years, 13 years, I guess, before becoming Director of Leisure Services and Public Facilities in 2000. So I'm still here, still involved, still engaged and wanting to know and wanting to be involved in what's happening in this building.
Right.
But I used to be much more involved and much more hands-on than I am now.
Yeah. Okay, Kathy, and what's your history with here?
Well, I moved here from Massachusetts in '86 and started doing theater. Actually, I did my first show in Tennessee here in 1990. I did Cookeville Summer Theater.
Oh, okay.
And did a show called Social Security and immediately fell back in love with theater. I had been away raising kids, rocking babies, as I say, and when I came to the audition, got cast, and started doing theater again, that was it. There was no turning back. So I did a lot of theater in a short period of time. I also had a lot of big life events happen to me, which made me want to change my direction as to what I was doing. Mm-hmm. They had a job. I was here every time the doors opened. I was working backstage. I was on stage. I was just doing everything I could. And there was a job that came open for a ticket seller. So I took that. I got that job. I shouldn't say I took that job. Rick hired me. Well, then again, Rick hired me. And so I sold tickets and popcorn.
Oh, okay.
And that was when we had the physical tickets. Remember that, Rick? And of course they were, it was all reserved. And then I just kind of started worming my way into more hours. Mm-hmm. and more responsibility, and kind of, won't you let me do this? And Rick would say, well, why don't you do that? And
Right.
this man was my mentor. He taught me everything I know. He taught me how to write a press release. He encouraged me, and I wouldn't be where I am without this guy right here. So he believed in me, and it grew from there.
Good, great.
Thanks, that's kind of you to say.
What brought about either the necessity or the idea of the Backstage Series? Because, I mean, we have this big stage that we're on right now. We have this big auditorium. What was the driving force behind putting everything on stage and doing it that way?
Well, great question, and that's what I was alluding to a little bit earlier. We had Cookeville Children's Theater, Cookeville Summer Theater were doing productions here in this facility, but it was called the Cookeville Drama Center. And so we had, the year before Drama Center Backstage started, let me say a couple of years, 2 or 3 years before, we had more beauty pageants in this building than we had drama. Wait a minute. There's plenty of drama with a beauty pageant. We had more beauty pageants than we had theater.
Exactly.
But that really frustrated me because here we were a performing arts facility, and we had many activities here that were not performing arts and not used for the purpose the building was built for.
Right.
And so I was trying to encourage Cookeville Children's Theater to produce more theater and offering to produce with them. Again, we had not been producing anything ourselves up to that point. And Cookeville Summer Theater was actually going in the opposite direction at that time. They had been doing 2 shows a year, and they were kind of cutting back. As you pointed out, it's a big stage, 40-foot proscenium, 400, and at that time, I think 480 seats, maybe.
Yeah.
And so when you do a show here, it's like there's a lot of seats to fill, there's a big space you have to fill. It's community theater. It's very taxing on those organizations to do more than 2 shows a year because they rely on volunteers. They need to do something that the community recognizes in terms of title to be able to fill the seats, and that's usually a bigger show, so it's expensive. It's expensive in set. It's expensive in royalties. There's a lot of expense to it. They need big casts so they can have some built-in audience. And there was just not, that meant commercial theater. Right. That meant I've got to do the big commercial musical that maybe I can get a lot of people to come to, or children's theater having large casts and doing recognizable titles. And so I felt like we really needed to do something different, do something small. Again, if you do something small here, I've done plenty of theater in my history in large spaces with small audiences, and it's not fun.
No, yeah, I've done that before myself.
It's not a good situation. So the thought then was, okay, we need to do something small, something intimate, and we don't need to compete with children's theater or summer theater or tech theater or Wesley theater. We need to do something a little bit different. And so we need to do some contemporary theater that is reflective of our society today, theater that provokes people in one way or another, theater that addresses topics that are current for today, and do it in a very small, intimate setting. And the way to do that then is to move the audience, to get the audience up here and create an intimate space.
Yeah.
And so that's where the idea came from.
Gotcha, okay.
Kathy was on staff at that time. We talked about it and started reading scripts and brainstorming and trying to figure out how to implement that series at that point, and went out and got sponsorship and sold ads for programs and did all those kinds of things to make sure that as a government department, local government, we were paying for it Ticket sales and sponsorships they were paying the bills. It wasn't taxpayer dollars that was going toward it. So that's how we got started down that road. And I think it's been wonderful, and I'm glad you guys have continued and kept it going, and it's a terrific way. It's very different, and I don't know when you saw your first Backstage series show and how old you were, but you probably walked in and went, "Wait a minute, what?"
Yeah, it was actually it was Speed of Darkness, so that would have been like right out of high school, I think, maybe something like that when I first saw it. And it was that experience of coming in and going, there's all these seats out here. Where are we going?
Yeah.
And we still get that today.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
People still try and sit in the seats out there, and instead of
absolutely.
coming, I've had to say, if you want to see anything, you're going to have to come up here.
And what's so interesting is when you say about people sitting out and still wanting to, the very act of them coming up to the stage and being this close to it is uncomfortable sometimes for them, and they get nervous, especially a shy person, not an outgoing person. They don't know what to expect, and they feel like they're on stage, which is great. That's exactly what we wanted.
And it is, especially for those contemporary shows that address issues and make you think and make you just a little bit uncomfortable in subject matter.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about language, I'm talking about the subject matter of the play, and then you have people around you that you can see. It's not like everybody is always facing the stage and it's really dark. The light's reflecting and you can see the reactions of other people in the audience. That's part of it.
That's everything.
That's really a part of
Rick and I
what we
talked a lot, I remember, because it was, what year was it, 1993, 92? All that was being done here was big, happy musicals.
Right.
And we were about to start something that wasn't a big, happy musical, that was going to probably, impossibly offend people. We talked always that we would not cut the script, we would not change the language. So we would be using language on the stage that had never been used before on this stage. And I remember us talking about it, and I remember saying to you, what do we do? What if people, walk out, or what if there's only 10 people in the audience? And I remember, and I'll always remember, you said to me, that doesn't matter. It's the work that we're doing, the importance of the work. And if somebody, we don't want people to walk out, but if they do, then, they felt something. They were moved, even if it was moved to what, they had a visceral response to what was happening on stage. Yeah. And it was great, and it was so new for actors in the area, but it's so exhilarating because you can feel the energy. Yeah. You can feel the tension, you can feel the emotion of the audience, and they're right there with you.
And the backstage setting gives you that opportunity because it's not always the same. You can put the audience out there, you can put the audience all the way around, you can do the alley style, you can do it in so many different ways. You have that flexibility, and so that made it really interesting and cool. And I think of some of the topics that we did Patient A, which was in the HIV show, the AIDS, one of the early shows about AIDS, and we were great. It was great to be able to have talkbacks with the audience, invite the audience to stay, and have community discussion about this topic and about this topic in our community with a physician, with an AIDS patient, with people here that could say, this is my perspective. Yeah. Just a wonderful opportunity to do that. And probably my very favorite, what I think is maybe the quintessential backstage production, Oleana, a David Mamet play that was done in the round. And it's such a wonderful play. and it talks about, I mean, it's a play basically about sexual harassment.
Okay.
In a university setting,
Oh.
on campus.
Well, that was before its time almost.
Oh, yeah,
And
very
so-
much so. Very relevant right now.
And
yeah.
so, again, it was done in the round where you could see people. And the cool thing, Mark Creeder directed it, we put caution tape. The only thing that defined the space was caution tape
Around it, wow.
around the performance area. So it was really cool going out after the show, opening night, and going down to one of the restaurants down the street and having people there, hearing people talk about it. Well, what do you
Yes.
think?
Yes.
What do you think?
Yes.
And that was so exciting for me
Yeah.
to think, oh, that really did what we wanted it to do.
Exactly. And that
It
was
was-
the excellent part of the series and still is that people don't leave it here. They're still talking about it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When
and I
they
think,
leave here. And it brings up such great subjects for families. And to say one more thing about Oleana is the person who played the professor was a professor.
Was a professor.
oh, really?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Was a professor, which
What,
and
at Tech?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Who, do you remember his name?
Frank
Kutzler.
And a lot of our audience members were professors, tech faculty, and things like that, which
Yeah.
made it so interesting.
Yeah, he came back into Q with Bird.
Yes.
That's what
Yeah,
it was.
yeah. But that
No.
show, basically you see all of the interaction between the student, female student, male professor. You see all of the interaction that they have with one another in the first act. And at the end of the first act, you find out that she is charging him with sexual harassment. And you think, whoa, no way. There's no way. What?
What happened?
Yeah, we saw that. No.
Yeah.
They go back, and the second act is all recounting all of those conversations that they had. And she said, but you said, and you're going, oh. Oh. She took that, oh.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, she took that differently.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, yes, that's what he said, but I don't think that's what he meant. And
that's-
she's going, those were your words. And, you're going, wow. And that leads to a lot of conversation afterwards
Yeah,
and a lot
definitely.
of thought
Yeah.
afterwards.
And as an audience member, you're changing your mind. You're
Yeah.
flipping back and forth, going, oh, yeah.
you can challenge your audience to come in and see something that may change their mind.
And trust you.
And trust you
And
that it's
Trust
yeah.
you that it's going to
Yes.
be decent. And
Yes.
decent, I mean, in quality. I don't mean in language and all
Yeah,
that. I mean
yeah.
decent. It's going to be well done.
Yeah.
And it's going to be something that will, spark
Yeah.
something in them.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you sit there, a lot of times these shows, people will say, I'm not alone.
Mm-hmm.
That's my experience.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to mention is, my first directing job was on here. It was Special Occasions. But that's not the show I wanted to do. I wanted to do the Heidi Chronicles. I mean, I was passionate. That was it. I wanted to do the Heidi Chronicles, and I went to Rick, and begged him, and he really kept me on a string for a long time. I ended up being the third show, and finally he said, okay, you can direct the Heidi Chronicles, but you've got to direct Special Occasions first. Do you remember that? Yeah. He said you have to direct and which I'm really, really glad because I got so many mistakes out of the way with Special Occasions that I was smarter for Heidi Chronicles.
Yeah.
And Special Occasions, it was about special occasions, Christmas, baptisms, all of that. And if there was a prop or a mention of something in the script, it was on stage. This stage was packed full of props and pieces. And I love the show. It was Carrie Massey and Virginia Lavella.
Yep.
But yeah, so he gave me that gift of giving me. So I thought Special Occasions was really good, but it prepped me for
Yeah.
Heidi Chronicles. which
I know we talked with Steve Gwilt in a previous episode.
He did great.
Yeah.
And
Always
he's
love
been,
talking to
he's
Steve.
been an anchor of this series and of theater in Cookeville in
Yeah.
so many ways, and of this facility now. And so
Yeah.
But I did see that one, and that was great.
Yeah.
It was, I
Steve did a good
too.
job.
So, and he was the first director, which was
Yep.
Asleep on the Wind and Graceland.
Yes.
Again, we're looking for plays that were small, that didn't cost a lot to produce, that were smaller, intimate kinds of shows that would fit well on the stage in an intimate setting, and that hopefully sparked people to react, to respond, to think, to engage, that were, about issues or something that, would
Yeah.
We cared
that
about.
were different than the just commercial shows. Yeah, something that
We
you could
cared.
care about.
But we also, too, looked at it as a balance.
Oh, sure,
also.
yeah.
Okay, we did this one, it's super heavy. Let's lighten it up a little bit right
Yeah.
here and
Do a
different
comedy in that
things.
spot and do something, yeah.
So that it would kind of balance out. And what was really cool is the last show of the first season was Love Letters that Rick directed, and he had Angela Volpe and Jeanette Volpe do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were so gracious to agree to do that at that time. That brought some credibility and brought an audience with them
Oh, yeah.
to this space, and it was a first for both of them.
Yeah.
And so they were really gracious and brave, honestly,
Yeah.
Yes.
to say, okay, I'll put myself out there
Yeah.
Yeah.
for this. And they were wonderful. It was a great
Oh,
experience.
it was wonderful, yes.
Just working with them and doing that show. And I think it's a charming show anyway.
I
And it's a
love it.
different way.
Yep.
It's a unique kind of theater and a different way to tell those stories of those two individuals.
Yeah. The reason I kind of asked that is, we've almost got it down to a science now. We have our platforms that we bring in, and we have the legs to put them together for seating, and we know how to put it in the round. We know how to put it in a box theater.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of it, and we've got all these seats that fit in together and do all this stuff, and we can kind of just do it. We have all that stuff. You guys just basically decided to, put some chairs out here.
Yeah.
And do it, right? I
And
mean,
we made some platforms.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
put platforms knowing that, with enough experience in theater, knowing, and in performance, that you've got to get audiences on different levels.
Right.
Or performers, or both, on different levels so that everybody can see.
Right.
So we did platforms
Yeah.
the
It
first year.
wasn't always safe at first.
we'll edit that one out.
We had platforms.
Platforms.
Yeah, had platforms. And that's what I don't know. A lot of people know the modern version of this. They weren't around for the
Yeah.
beginning of it, and so
Yes.
you guys were.
There's a lot of trial and error.
I think it was done kind of show by show.
Yeah.
And it all starts with a director's vision.
Right.
It all starts with a concept and a director's vision. And then how can we realize that in this space? Sets were
I was just gonna
intentionally
say,
very
yeah.
minimal.
Right. And that's-
Intentionally.
Yeah, like
What
a
can
bench,
we do on a
yeah.
bare stage?
Yes.
What can we
Right,
do
yeah.
without building a wall and without spending a lot of money
Yeah.
on a big set? So
And that's what I absolutely love about it is it's so character driven. It's not about the big flashy set. It's not about it's about the story. It's about the characters. It's about the actors. It's about the work.
and I think that's how it evolved. It was perhaps, just reading scripts and deciding what was of interest, and other people coming along after we were no longer participating, making those choices and choosing something different.
Yeah.
Too, when Chad came on as our technician, we had the talent then. Not that anybody else wasn't talented, but he really, to me, brought the technical aspect of Drama Center Backstage, elevated that because of his skill, and that was his passion and his interest, and the man could build a set.
Yeah. Oh,
you know.
definitely.
Don't you think?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I was just trying to think of the first season, what was the setting for Special Occasions and for Heidi Chronicles?
Platforms.
Yeah,
That was it.
that was it. And so the same was true with Love Letters. Love Letters, there's no movement. It's
Yeah.
two people sitting at desks
Right.
the entire show. So very simple. You put a platform there, you put a desk, you know, you light them, and they're sitting there the entire time. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy.
Right.
It was the second season when we started with the dining room that required us to have a dining room.
Right.
No, I see.
You had to have a set, you had to have a dining room. The cool thing about that show, of course, is that it's about the stories that can be told from that dining room over a long period of time. So the scene, the setting remains the same, but the characters change throughout because
Right.
Oh, I like that. a
Yeah.
lot.
And the
I hadn't
scenes
seen
and
that
the
one.
scenes overlap each other.
Yeah.
When this scene is ending, the next characters come in. I've done that show several times. I love it. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds really good.
I love
Except
it.
just thinking about the stories that I've heard in my dining room. Or,
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
and
Or
the
in my
stories,
grandmother's.
you know, you hear if these walls could talk. Well,
Yeah.
that's kind of what this
Right.
this show's about. You know,
Exactly.
it's these walls are talking or
Yeah.
telling that story now.
Yeah. So, what would be just a unique moment that you experienced here on the back door stage or backstage or something like that? What about you, Kath? Can you think of one?
I've got one. Yes, we were doing a show called The Beauty Queen of Lanai.
Yes.
And
I've heard of this one.
Yes, I loved it. Intense show. And I was playing the mother, Meg, and my daughter basically was abusing me. And there's a scene where I'm sitting in a rocking chair, and she comes up behind me and takes my hair and pulls it back like that. And that's all it's supposed to be, is she pulls my hair and I go back. I believe it was opening night. The adrenaline and everything. She pulls me back, and the whole rocking chair flips backwards.
Oh no.
So I do a tumble-salt. Now, that scene is also followed by her taking my hand and burning it in a skillet. Well, now I've tumbled backwards. I'm on the floor. Now what do? She literally dragged me from the floor over to the stove. I'm fighting her. It was the most exhilarating moment I ever had on stage. I never wanted to do it again.
No.
And people were like, "Oh my God, that was so."
Yeah.
It wasn't planned, but yeah. So we literally fought, and she dragged me over
Oh,
to the
wow,
thing.
yeah.
So that was
What came to my mind first when you said that? First of all, I have a little bit different perspective than Kathy. I've never performed in a drama center or backstage. What's it called now?
It's Backstage Series.
Backstage, yeah, the Backstage Series. I've never performed. I've never been an actor in that setting. I've never
That's
done a
very
show.
interesting because you're an accomplished actor.
Well, thank you. I used to could, as they say around
Well,
here.
yes.
But I have directed, but being responsible for many years for the series and in the position that I was in, I come from, that's the perspective that I bring to that question. It's like the front of house aspect of it and what my responsibilities were toward the shows. And I do remember, and forgive me, Kathy, you'll know this, it was either Bells or Mama Drama where we did the slides. We did projections.
That wasn't Heidi Chronicles?
No,
Probably Mama Drama. I think it was.
I don't remember, but there was a show where we did projections, multiple projections. We built, and they're still here somewhere, these towers.
That was Heidi Chronicles.
They're
Because
act-
Birdie did it. Yes,
Yeah.
that was Heidi Chronicles.
Birdie did what?
Birdie did the slides for me.
This was a show where I was responsible for
Oh,
the
well,
slides.
then maybe not,
And that's
then.
why I'm saying
Oh,
this,
no.
because
Oh, yes, because, no, it was Mama Drama because it was our childhood pictures.
yes, right,
That's what it
right.
was.
Yeah.
Now I
So there were
remember.
3 towers back there and multiple slides, old-time slides, and a program that predates the easier programs today,
Okay.
but a program that you had to sit and go through. This was really early 20th century technology, I think, and it took me forever to try to figure that out. That's what I was doing.
That's right.
And I was running those slides during the show from the light booth, and something went wrong. I don't remember what it was, and I hit the wrong button, and the slides just went backwards, and it was like, oh my God. And that, I honestly believe that was my first adult nervous breakdown. It was
Yeah.
literally, I was worthless it may be still worthless.
It
It was just devastating
Yeah.
that I had really messed that up and messed it up in the middle of the show.
Yeah.
It was just awful. So that's, I guess, maybe a negative story,
Yeah.
but,
No, I don't
but
think it is.
sticks out to me as being, there were wonderful things too.
Yeah.
We were talking a little bit earlier about the awards that have that actors and directors have won because of this series, both here in the state of Tennessee and regionally. And the series itself won the National Parks and Recreation Association Award for Best Cultural Arts and Humanities Program for that
yeah.
year. The Dorothy Mullen Award, awarded by the NRPA, National Recreation Park Association.
Yeah.
So those are all positive things and ways that the series has brought recognition to this community, given performers, directors, the opportunity to more opportunity to perform and be a part of the theater, and something a little bit different than your typical large stage show.
Yeah.
So I think it's been very special.
Yeah.
And thank you all for continuing it and making it great.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, like I said earlier, it has influenced what I've done in theater and how I do theater. So it's great. I really appreciate that we've ever done it and we're continuing to do
It's
it.
special.
So,
It's very special.
yeah. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate you joining me. This
Thank
has
you,
Thank you.
Matt.
been
It's
a great look at our
great.
history. So
Yeah, it's great
right.
taking a walk down memory lane.
yeah.